Hello everybody, my name is RWJP and today we're going to be taking a quick look at Element's eM300a mini scout light, and we're also going to take a brief look at an aftermarket mount that you can buy for it should you wish to replace the one that's currently got fitted to it. We'll start with the eM300a as it is the major part of the review, and we'll move on to the extra mount later on. So first and foremost, we'll start with just a brief bit of history on what the eM300a is cloning and roughly the idea behind it. It's a clone of Surefire's eM300a mini scout light, which is one of the smallest weapon-based lights available. It's very short, about 10 centimeters long from the end of the tail cap to the head of the bulb. Essentially, Surefire's idea when making the eM300a and its slightly bigger brother, the eM600, was to provide a good functional weapon light that wasn't as big as their previous options, such as the eM951 Millennium light, which was an excellent light by all accounts, but it was enormous and it added a hell of a lot of weight to the front of rifles, which isn't exactly ideal. So they came up with this, the eM300a and the eM600, which is its slightly larger double batteried brother. Element have cloned this and it is an excellent clone overall, and frankly it's fantastic they did clone it. A real one costs about £300. This one cost me £40 from Combat South Airsoft. Right, what do we get in the bag? Well, obviously the light. Quite simple, it's the main product you're buying, there's the light. You also get an extra tape pressure switch which simply screws onto the back. Nice that they actually include this. A lot of lights you can buy will come with one or the other but not both, and we'll move on to that in a bit later. Also included are a couple of little strips of Velcro like that should you want to mount them onto your weapon that way. I personally don't, so I haven't used them. All comes in one of the standard Element blister pack style packages. I would have preferred a box rather than a little plastic bag, because for a product like this they're fairly sort of susceptible to damage in postage. Fortunately Combat South packed it rather well for me, nicely done, wrapped in bubble wrap, then in a bubble wrap lined jiffy bag, so decent enough for me. As I said, I would have preferred a box, but one of those things, Element aren't known for doing that, they are on a fairly cheap end of accessories. We'll put that off to one side for now. Okay, moving back to the light. General impression of it is pretty good. It's decent quality overall, it's not too heavy, which is the whole idea of these lights really, and it's impressive. It's lightweight, it's short, which is really nice. You've not got some enormous light mounted off the side of your rifle. Trademarks are pretty damn accurate to the real thing. It's got the SF logo, Surefire, with its serial number underneath, which is X00001. I believe that's the same on all of these Element lights. I don't think they have unique serial numbers. On the head of the light you've got the KX1A, which is the name of this LED head, various logos which would, for the real product, state its compliance with various laws, and another serial number for the head of the bulb itself. And on the opposite side it's got a caution of hot surface symbol on it, because the head of this can get a bit warm. Okay, we'll move on to the bulb. Very good replica of the real thing. Decent output. The box claim, well, the advertising claims it's 110 lumen output, which I don't quite believe, because a lot of these cheaper clone LEDs aren't as good as they suggest they are. However, It is bright, it is a nice focused beam of light with a good amount of sort of external spread to it, which allows for better peripheral vision as well as good focus light on target. Roughly the focus light reaches out to about 90 feet, I've estimated, which is pretty impressive for a tiny little light like this. So overall not bad on the light front. One thing I will note though, if any of you guys are looking at buying this and thinking of putting a real head onto this from a real Surefire light, you're not going to be able to. The threading inside here is not the same as the real thing, so be warned on that one, just don't get caught out on it. On the topic of threading, actually, what I'll do is I'll unscrew the head of this light, which is how you access the battery, which is rather unusual actually, considering most torches with a removable tail cap like this, you would unscrew the back and insert the battery from the back. These lights, you don't. You actually unscrew the head, and as you can see, battery fitment is there. That's just a single standard Duracell CR123A battery, and that's all you need. Going to leave the battery out for now, just because putting the head of this on can be a bit of a pain. As you can see, the threading on this is very, very short. There's only a few threads, so getting it back on with this spring and the spring that's deep down inside there, providing contact at the bottom of the battery, can be a bit of a pain, which is probably the biggest flaw I've got with this. So screw that back on for now. Right, moving down to the other end of the light, tail cap. This is the tail cap that comes initially fitted to it. It is a simple click to activate light. It is very, very nice, very solid, positive click. You can probably hear that as I click it. Feels good, works excellently. When you've got it on, only the slightest bit of pressure on the cap will actually turn it back off. So you can hold it, you can switch it on and then hold it off for periods of time, which also allows you to strobe the light quite nicely. Obviously, as I mentioned before, it does unscrew, which I shall take off there. Threading on this end is a hell of a lot better. Also, while I'm here, I will point out it is O-ring sealed, and it is also O-ring sealed at the other end on the head as well, so moisture shouldn't affect it. Just shift this out of the way quickly. Just pressure cap, pressure switch is just simply screw on as well, which I shall do now. Nice long thread on this so it's not going anywhere, and it extends to about 6-ish inches of length on cabling to the pressure switch, which again is very, very nice. A lot of cheapy sort of Chinese made pressure switches feel really squishy, they aren't very positive. This, although you probably won't be able to tell, has a really, really nice positive click to it, so you really know when you're activating the light and when you're going to turn it back off again. Obviously this is a momentary pressure switch, so it is a push and hold to keep it active, release to turn the light back off again. Right, I'll remove that quickly, put the normal tail cap back on, just because it's a bit easier to work around than with this massive cable length on the end of it. Screw this back on quickly. There we go. Okay, next thing to talk about is the mounting system. It's a pretty standard 20mm rail mounting system, clamps on either side of the rail, and simply unscrew this here, which allows you to pull out one side of the mount, like so, and allows you just to clamp it down onto the rail. Overall, pretty solid mounting system. However, there is one fault with it as far as I'm concerned. The other end of the mount there doesn't have any form of keying on it. It's just a round block which sits in a round hole. That causes an issue. When you tighten it right the way down, I'm not actually turning, I'm barely tightening that there. There we go, it's just started to tighten. What can happen is the end of the bolt and the bar inside just spin repeatedly. They never actually fully tighten, which is a real pain. So that's the one issue. To demonstrate a better way of doing it, I have here a clone of a Wilcox Comp M mount for aim points and other 30mm scopes. What this has on its mounting system, which is almost identical, and just undo this, get rid of that, is on its bar, as you can see, it has that flat edge there, and that is just a flattened off side. That interfaces with the tiny little silver roll pin there, which you can just about see sticking out the edge of the mount there. What that does is when the pin is dropped, or the bolt is dropped in, and then it is tightened down, it stops the cross bolt from turning, which means you can really put some tightness on it, which is excellent. It's how I want things to work. So really that is my main complaint with the element light, is simply the fact that this will rotate on you and you might not necessarily be able to tighten it down fully. That is about it really, other than that little thing I mentioned with the mount and the fact that the threading on the head here is incredibly short. This is overall an excellent product for its price. 40 quid for a decent, competent clone of a real world product is not bad at all. It certainly does the job you'd be buying it for. It's an excellent choice, and anyone who is looking at buying one would be well advised to do so. As I said at the beginning, Combat South Airsoft, which is based over in Portsmouth, has these in stock at the moment, or at least has some of them in stock. Various Hong Kong based websites such as Airsoft Peak have them as well, although you may get hit for shipping for importation charges on those, because obviously they're coming out in from Hong Kong. Okay, next we'll move on to the Element Thorntail adaptive light mount. Again, we'll quickly go through. It comes in exactly the same packaging as the light itself, standard sort of blister pack affair. This one comes with 2 little screws and an Allen key as well. This is a clone of the Haley Strategic Partners Thorntail light mount. The idea behind this is you screw your light in to these holes here, mount it on your rail system, and it extends the light forwards of the end of the rail system you've mounted it onto. Ideally, in real life terms, you want the light as far forward as possible to avoid barrel shadowing. If your light's set too far back, the light will catch the barrel of the rifle and will cause a massive shadow in your peripheral light, which, aside from being a bit of a pain because it creates a dark spot, also means that it's a bit more obvious as to where you are in relation to the light. If you're shining light straight in front of you and there's barrel shadow on the right hand side, anyone opposing you will know that you're on the left of that light. So it's not exact on their left of that light. Not exactly great. So this is designed to extend the light quite a way forwards, and it does that quite nicely. Overall, this is a really simple piece of kit. You have the main mount, which will go over the rail system. You have the bar, which is where you mount your light. You can mount this on either side via these 2 bolts here. It can either go in this configuration or the other way around, should you want to fit it on the other side of your rail system. Mounting the light is nice and easy, and I'll quickly show you that now. Need a 2mm Allen key to remove the mount from the element light itself, and that is a nice simple job of removing this bolt and this bolt, which I'll do for you now. done up nice and tight to keep them on nice and solid. There's one, and that's the other. Yeah, if I can get a grip on this, I'll tighten that up quite nicely. There we go. So that slides off and leaves you with that. And as you can see, you have two holes in the bottom of the light here. These match up with those slots, and that is where the two included bolts for the mount come in. One goes in there, the other goes in at the front. Tighten them both down, and that's what you get. That's how it looks. So you can see, if you mount that on the front of a rail system like that, it extends the light a decent way forwards. I find with a Magpul AFG2 or a foregrip mounted a short way back through the light, you can get a very comfortable grip on your rifle whilst having your thumb sat nicely against the pressure switch, so you just need to twitch your thumb ever so slightly to activate it. The only thing I would mention with this is that right at the front of the rail system here, you can see that these notches, which sit over the edge of the 20mm rail, are rounded at the end. So you need to be careful with where you mount this on your rail, otherwise it's going to end up twisted, which will send your light off at some strange angle and not pointing down your barrel, which isn't much good. It's not a huge problem. I've got it mounted in such a way that the end of my rail system sits about where my finger is at the moment. You probably could actually mill these out slightly, or take a Dremel to them just to extend that curved section ever so slightly, but otherwise it's good for what it does. It's nice and cheap. It was about £13 roughly from Airsoft Peak in Hong Kong. That would include included shipping, which was quite remarkable actually, very cheap. So that's how I have this set up at the moment. I really like it. It puts the light in a much more comfortable position for actually operating it, which I think is absolutely excellent. Makes things a lot more simple and comfortable and a bit more natural, to be perfectly honest. The mounting system that comes with the element light puts it on the rail and puts it a bit further back, which isn't necessarily comfortable for positioning your hand in a natural grip on the rifle. The Thorntail mount with the light mounted on it removes that major issue, which I think is absolutely excellent. So once again, I would highly recommend this. I would highly recommend getting these two as a combination. Obviously your mileage may vary. I find it works incredibly well like this. You may not find it as comfortable based on how you regularly hold your rifle. If you follow Magpul or similar styles of teaching where they suggest having your hand high and forwards on the rifle, the thumb brake method as they call it, then this will work really fantastically well for you set up like this. If you prefer using a straight vertical grip and holding your rifle that way, then you'll probably find that the standard mount in combination with the pressure switch would work better for you. Mount the pressure switch onto the side of the vertical grip wherever you find it most comfortable and operate it that way. And that is probably my favourite feature actually, is the fact that you get these options. You are able to chop and change as you see fit and modify, which is nice for a product, especially one which is as cheap as this. So yeah, overall both products are well worth the cash. I'm very impressed with them. Element has done another good job. Their products are remarkably cheap for what they are. They are always pretty damn good. So yeah, highly recommended. If you've been looking for a weapon light for urban based games or night games, if you regularly play them, you should find that this or its bigger brother, the eM300, which is a bit longer to fit a second battery, are very, very good options. Thanks for watching. I've been RWJP, and I hope you found this useful.